this is using a conventional tablet, very thin, of course. And I think the amazing thing here is Microsoft thinks school teachers will travel business class in 5 years' time. This is a personal tablet. So it's about the size of a credit card. And again, accessing the information cloud in the plane, she can find out at which gate her plane is landing at. Yeah, I might go back to teaching if we're travelling business class. Okay, so this is an office, and using Surface technology, a petition becomes an information sharing resource. Now this guy's sitting down at his desk, and how similar is this? The computer he's working on is so similar to Robert Downey Jr., so I kind of had to bring the two together. So rather than having files in folders and you know, the typical structure we're used to, being able to access content in a graphical form and move it, share it, work with it, it's a very different environment to a conventional desktop computer as we have today. I always think this is the Sydney Airport in a Qantas strike. There's no one there. But this chap is using a very interesting phone that separates into two parts. One part is to access the information cloud in the airport. The other one is a conventional smartphone. And it has the ability to translate in real time. As she's talking, it translates into Korean. Clicks the phone back together, a bit like the magnet on the iPad in the cover, smart cover. And so now he's asked the airport to take him to the meeting room, and using arrows on the floor, it would convey him to where he would meet with the woman from the plane. This is a group of colleagues. You might remember that. It's called a pen. In 5 years' time, we'll just use it to point to things. And again, video conferencing, sharing on the glass panel, being able to use gestures to transfer information. And voice to text that actually works. Yes. Voice to text has really improved, and having it work properly is terrific. You've got to keep an eye on the coffee cup here. So the airport's brought him to the meeting room, and this tabletop becomes an information exchange area. So he uses biometrics to access his information. Imagine carrying your communication history with another individual with you, so you can exchange information. And again, everything in graphical form as opposed to the traditional way we share information. This is digital paper, developed in conjunction with Philips and a couple of other companies. It was launched in Europe. It's horrendously expensive at the moment, but as you can see, it's a traditional newspaper format, but can also carry a wide variety of information that is then portable on the paper. And it's got a really interesting feel. It's a polymer type of feel, but you can have video, audio, text, obviously, and then it changes and he takes that outside with him. At this year's CES, we saw transparent LCD screens, which really did look quite remarkable. They were integrated. There was a Chinese company, TCL, that was demonstrating it in a fridge door. It was completely transparent. And of course, Microsoft's vision that in 5 years' time, if you send the kids out to play in the city, they go up to the 65th floor. So information and the revolution in information is something that we really have to to think about. So where does this go from here? What drives the ability to access information like that? The elements are pretty simple. You could have told me powerful processors. We're seeing that happening. Intel are delivering multi-core processors. They guarantee, almost guarantee, that in 4 years' time they'll be launching a 64-core processor for mobile devices. So there's no problem with that. We have to have high-speed broadband to drive that sharing of graphical information because of the high bandwidth. And we are seeing the rollout with the NBN. We are getting high-speed broadband, and it is going to be critical for Australia's future that we address it. Because the problem today, it was announced that we've slipped back to 2 places on the speed, the average speed available to Australians. Now, we've been pretty good in terms of where we sit with penetration. Around 80% of Australia has access to some form of broadband. But interestingly, we sit between the Czech Republic and Greece. We've just dropped back. We now sit between Slovenia and Mexico, I believe, in terms of average broadband speed. So we're not anywhere close to where we should be when you consider the speeds that South Korea gets, Sweden gets, Finland. It's kind of embarrassing, and it is going to impact our ability to be part of that global digital economy. And I'm often asked, how do you show this for a business? A lot of the technology that will come, courtesy of the NBN, it's difficult to show. We don't have it yet. Once it's in place, then we will see a vastly different situation. An event like this, we would be demonstrating a whole range of products and services that benefit from high-speed broadband. So I did this simple graphic, or got this simple graphic put together. 2003, what I'm doing is sending 10 megabyte files at average speeds 2003, 2008, and last year 100 megabits a second, 1.5 megabits a second, and 256 kilobits a second. 10 megabyte files, and they're loaded. So what I would have done back in 2003, if I was sending 10 megabyte files, so 100 megabytes, I'd get it started on Friday afternoon and hope that Monday morning when I came into work it was happening, or it had happened. In 2008, I'd take a client out for lunch. But of course, in 2012, and when you get it in June, with 100 megabits a second, you would, it's over in a few seconds. You've uploaded the files or downloaded the files, and it's all over. You move on to the next thing. So if saving time is money, then there's no question that high-speed broadband is going to save you some considerable money in terms of what it does. So, like with any revolution, it leads to a chaotic period, and that's really, I think, where we're going through now. There's a lot of confusion in terms of, particularly for small business, in how am I going to use this high-speed broadband? How will it change my business? More so, how will it change my customer? Because my customer will have access to this high-speed broadband, and the various services and products that are going to become available will really change things. And what happens during a period of chaos, during a revolutionary time, is disruptive innovation. And if you think about it, the iPad was a disruptive innovation when it came along. We'd had tablets before, but none that kind of brought all the elements together like the iPad did. So disruptive innovation is, I think, the thing that we should be looking at. And, there are plenty of examples, and I thought this was a classic. Barack and Michelle Obama at the Commander-in-Chief inauguration ball, January 21, 2013, so just this January passed. What are all those lights? Smartphones. So everyone that was there, or it would appear that almost everyone that was there was either taking photos or videoing and using their phones. If you compare that to the inauguration ball, and you know, smartphones now have fabulous cameras. We're talking 5 megapixel image sensors. In fact, the new LG has a 12 gigabyte image sensor. And if you go back 20 years to 1993, Bill and Hillary Clinton, all these cameras are film-based cameras. And what occurred to me was that change in 20 years was quite remarkable. The company that invented the digital camera, Kodak, actually went into bankruptcy. And their patents have been bought by Apple and Google. How does that happen? How does a disruptive innovation like a smartphone, in 2000, putting a camera, Sharp was the first to do it, put a camera in a mobile phone, how does that happen, that this company misses the changes that are happening in the industry that they virtually created, that they, a 100-year-old company, they were synonymous with photography. How do they miss the change? How does the disruptive innovation put them out of business? And you know, that's the thing you've really got to watch. And interestingly, we're seeing PC shipments decline. The quarter just gone was 14% decline. The last quarter of last year was the biggest decline that the industry has had, a 15%. I think that's what I've got, 15.5% in the last quarter of 2012. And what's causing it is the disruptive innovation brought about by the advent of the tablet and the smartphone. People are saying, I don't need a complex computer, and I particularly don't need a boat anchor in a desktop computer. I just don't need that anymore. Obviously, we'll still need it for servers. But then when Intel comes out, as I mentioned earlier, when Intel comes out and tells us that these things, motherboards, that it will not be producing motherboards for desktop or notebook computers or desktop computers past the end of this year, you kind of have to take notice and wonder what's happening in the industry. So Intel will cease production of desktop motherboards in the last quarter of 2013. And, you know, for the industry, that was a huge shock. That kind of changes the dynamic of where Intel is going. So they're going to focus on mobile devices. So what does small business do? And I actually think that there's a golden opportunity at the moment for small business because of the disruption, because of the chaos that's out there, because of the generational change